Esper Control. Left, Robert, Wagner, Krankel, Mono Blue aggro. I think this is favor for Mono Blue. What do you think?
I think that it is a very, I mean, structurally, it's a very good matchup. You have your low-end threats backed up with some counter spells. It's a good recipe against a deck that's playing with a lot of 3 and 4 or 5 mana spells. The overall card quality in Mono Blue aggro still makes me a little bit nervous, but I think the matchup should be good.
All right, just a couple of lands from either side, no plays, but a Merfolk Trickster here coming down for Krankel. Could get the ball rolling, but a Moment of Craving takes it out.
Yeah, and Hobbs not trying to mess around on Wagner Krankel's own turn because on tap with Spell Pierce, get a Curious Obsession on something. Hobbs doesn't want to run any of those risks.
Yeah, Hobbs here looks like he's mulligan down to 5 cards this game, but I believe Krankel is also mulligan to 6. Neither player really doing a whole lot of anything. Hobbs shocking down to 20 with that Godless Shrine. I guess holding up Mortify, perhaps some other removal spell.
Mortify would make sense. Can't be Absorb. Doesn't have the second blue.
Right. Just a 4th land and another pass from Wagner Krankel. And this is reminiscent to me of decks like Green-White Hexproof in Modern, where sometimes you just don't draw another creature after your first one gets hit by some sort of removal. And here he's really struggling to get any traction.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 19 creatures in the deck total. So you are going to have draws where you only have one thing and it gets answered. The rest of your hand is just counter spells, maybe Curious Obsession. Really nowhere to go.
Hobbs is not really doing much of anything either, and notably doesn't have that second blue for Absorb. So if Krankel is able to stick Tempest Djinn here and protect it with a Spell Piercer 2, they can start chunking Jonathan Hobbs quickly. Time and time again, we see mana gluts really affecting a player's ability to interact. That Spell Pierce there, they're notably taking on that Mortify, and with Hobbs short on mana, just putting on a clinic here with this Mono Blue deck.
Yep. And Hobbs, you want to go for it there because you would have seen Dive Down the first time around if there was there. So you're really only playing around one of the 2 remaining copies of Spell Pierce. Got to give it a shot there, but Wagner Krankel was at the ready.
Now, normally, Curious Obsession is plan A. You put that on one of your 1-drop creatures, start drawing a bunch of cards, use things like Spell Pierce and Dive Down to protect it. Here we see plan B and Tempest Djinn alongside the plan A and Curious Obsession, and Jonathan Hobbs doesn't really have any defense here. Yet another removal spell, and I think this one's going to get countered as well. Rizer's Retort hits that Warrant Warden.
And Hobbs, you see once you get behind this deck, if you're only playing 1 spell a turn, it's pretty easy for them to answer the whole game with their counter spells and dive downs.
Yeah, and Hobbs here looking for something, digging desperately. Did he find the land? It looks like he didn't, and that's going to be all she wrote for Game 1. This might be the quickest finals in SCG Tour history, Patrick.
We've had some really quick ones. I would guess that it was a Legacy one, but I'm not totally sure. We have had some very fast ones.
Apparently, I am being told by our wonderful director, Rob, that Aaron Barrett took 10 total turns in the best of 5 in 3 games. 10 total turns of Magic. He took it down. Got himself a nice little human soldier token.
Yep. Oh yeah. There's the Mono Blue Painter Blood Moon. Is it? Yeah, just 6-0'd in 10 seconds.
Oh.
I remember that one now. Name of the player is escaping me. Greg something?
Greg something has been called.
Hot Sauce Games shirt?
All right.
I got it now.
We're coming back.
That one was real fast.
Okay, well, we do have some things to talk about here. Both players going to be going to their sideboards in preparation for Game 2, looking to swing things in his favor is Jonathan Hobbs. Taking a look at sideboard, we have 4 copies of Basilica Bell Haunt, 4 Thief Sanity, 3 Duress, 2 Hostage Taker, 4th Kaya's Wrath with 3 in the main, and then a single The Eldest Reborn. What do you like here, Patrick?
The 3 copies of Duress, the 2 Hostage Takers, and the Kaya's Wrath. I think Basilica Bell Haunt, we saw Hobbs bring this in against the Azorius aggro players. I don't think it does enough blocking in this matchup to be brought in.
Sure. What's your opinion on Thief of Sanity? Do you think, since there's no real removal from the blue aggro side, there's a chance that it actually comes down and dominates?
There's a shot. I think that you want to be leaning enough on the sweepers that the pairing's a little bit awkward. No guarantee that it's an effective attacker, but I
Sure.
could buy it. I mean, you want to get away from some of your expensive spells in general, and a cheap creature lets you pivot a little bit.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. From Robert Wagner Krankel's side, we have 3 copies of Search Mare, 3 Negates, 2 Fairy Duelist, the newer inclusion to the sideboard as a means of protection against aggro. Not coming in here probably, but still pretty good. 2 Exclusion Mage, 2 Entrancing Melody, 2 Deep Freeze, and 1 Search for Ascanta. What you thinking?
I really like the Search for Ascanta, the 3 Negates, and the 3 Surge Mares as a little bit of protection against sweepers.
Yeah, the Search Mare dodges things like Moment of Craving. And as the game goes longer, if you draw enough lands, the fire breathing aspect of it does hit pretty hard and could be just, another one of those threats that stands alone and does some stuff without having to invest too much into it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit on the slow. The beats are a little bit slow, and it's not like Robert has a lot of bad cards in the deck, so I don't know where you really want to make space for it. But the Mistcloak Heralds can probably afford to go. Not a whole lot of blocking being done here.
If you're looking to pick up either of these decks or Standard in general, make sure to go check out the Magic the Gathering sale over at StarCityGames.com. Hundreds of new singles on sale through Monday, and then on Monday, guess what? Starts again with a bunch of new cards. If you're interested in getting a great deal on some of these interesting foils and foreign cards, as well as plenty of staples across all the formats, check out go.starcitygames.com/sale. See what we got going on over there. Both players shuffling up here for game 2. Hobbs going to hopefully not take as many mulligans this game as he did in the last. And on the other side of the coin, Wagner Krankel going to be digging for a better start than he had in last game, though. Hobbs was, frankly, worse.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you told Robert game number 1, this is going to be your draw in the way that it plays out, I don't think he would have been too optimistic about his chances to win, but Hobbs just never really got off the ground. Robert was able to win a critical fight over a Tempest Djinn and easily run away with the game from there.
Yeah, I mean, in a battle of anemic draws, I'm always going to take the deck that has a lower curve because they're usually, on average, going to be able to play more spells with fewer amounts of mana.
And that's exactly what happened, and Hobbs, died with 5 or 6 spells in his hand.
Right, and crucially, since he's a 3-color deck, not even having the second blue for those absorbs kind of rotting in his hand, those would have been pretty good, especially against those Tempest Djinns early, maybe even winning him a battle over the Tempest Djinn at some point. Those Spell Pierces just did so much work in protecting it.
Yeah, I mean, Hobbs really didn't have any choice in that game other than to run his head into Spell Pierces and counter spells. And, since Robert didn't have threats and he wasn't making land drops, obviously the rest of his hand just has to be reactive. And once he found a threat, there's really no way for Hobbs to get out from under it.
Now, there is a chance that in Game 1, Hobbs aggressively mulliganed. Obviously, here in the elimination rounds, both players have access to each other's deck lists. Hobbs knows that there's a lot of cards in his deck that aren't particularly good in the first game. The counter spells can get stuck in his hand, kind of rotting away. But after sideboard, a lot of those cards are no longer in the deck. So Hobbs here, looking for an optimal 6, seems to have found one and scried to the top. We got a Watery Grave to start. Wagner Krankel's side, we're going to lead with Island into Terramander, the newest addition to the deck, giving it a very high number of 1-drops to go along with Curie Obsession, as well as even Chart a Course. Those numbers increasing over the last few weeks. Thought Erasure here, going to strip that Curious Obsession. Not a lot Wagner Krankel can do about it. We're going to have a Surveil here from Hobbs after he writes down the hand.
Showing a lot of respect for that card there as Hobbs elected to play the Thought Erasure over Search for Ascanta, wanting to make sure that the game basically, didn't end before it even started.
Yeah, if you play Search for Ascanta here and then the mono blue player gets to go Curious Obsession plus Spell Pierce,
we're done.
You lose.
Yeah, we're done.
It just waterfalls from there, and even if you are able at some point to get that creature off the battlefield, chances are you're going to lose to everything that was drawn off of the Curious Obsession. Second land here for Wagner Krankel on the second turn. Sends in with Terramander. Passes the turn with Counter Magic at the ready. Hobbs plays a Glacial Fortress. Looking to position himself here. Needs to get that Terramander off the battlefield at some point. But needs to think about ways to deal with that Tempest Djinn in Wagner's hand. Another attack sends Hobbs down to 18. That Terramander chipping away. Not really a huge threat at this point, but Hobbs decides to end of turn go ahead and use his mana efficiently and cast a Moment of Craving, targeting that Terramander.
Yeah, and you know about the Spell Pierce, and from Wagner Krankel's perspective, is it going to get better?
That's interesting. Decides to go for Negate as far as to help use his mana more efficiently later on. He has an Island in hand as well as that Tempest Djinn. Perhaps going for Tempest Djinn plus Spell Pierce next turn, and Negate maybe get stuck in his hand if he goes the other way.
Yep. I mean, the other side of that is Hobbs is making his land drops and is soon going to be able to play his 3-mana cards, including Mortify, over the top of the Spell Pierce. So it's no guarantee that this Spell Pierce is able to protect the Tempest Djinn.
Right. Turns out, though, Wagner Krankel does appeal Dive Down for the turn. So if Jonathan Hobbs plays that land and a Mortify, is still going to be facing down a Tempest Djinn unless he has a negate or something like that to take it down as well.
That shows a lot of respect for mana efficiency from Robert's side, because casting a negate instead of a Spell Pierce when your opponent knows about the Spell Pierce is really making a loud statement about how much you want to be mana efficient.
Yeah, but Wagner Krankel understands the sequencing that's going to happen over the next few turns. If he goes for Kaya's Wrath this turn, it's going to put him in a precarious position. Looks like we're going to go for Warden, the back half of Warden, which creates a 4/4 flyer. But that gets hit with a Spell Pierce, untap, playing our 5th land, attacking in for 6 points of damage, and we got Wizard's Retort and Spell Pierce at the ready, and Dive Down at the ready to protect.
Yeah, a lot of cover here.
Kaya's Wrath is not going to do it. That Wizard's Retort potentially countering it. Spot removal on the Tempest Djinn, not going to do it. And almost enough mana to adapt that Terramander as well. I think this is it. A Wizard's Retort, and he's going to have enough to adapt that Terramander. This is going to be 10 damage. Can he find the island? He finds the island. 5 mana. Adapt the Terramander. Attack for 11. That's all she wrote. What a quick finals and decisive victory for Robert Wagner Krankel and his mono blue aggro deck. Really just showing what the deck can do. Jonathan Hobbs just unable to really get any traction. Those cheap counter spells really put a